Just yesterday, 11th of November, Syrian President Ahmed Al-Sharaa visited the United States and met President Donald Trump, as we like to call him, Donny Boy. Maybe it's just me, actually. Now, the goal, publicly stated, was to talk about Syria's economy and sanctions potentially being lifted to allow the economy to grow, to actually breathe. The hidden goals are likely something else, but we'll touch on that later in the video. First, the public stuff. The not muffles speculation, but the actual facts. Syria just climbed out of a 15-year deep ditch. That hole was called the Syrian Civil War. It ended with Bashar al-Assad toppled. He fled to Russia, and assuming he didn't die of some winter flu, because he might be more used to the Middle Eastern heat after all, and Russia is quite cold, I hear. Assuming he's still alive, he's probably somewhere in Russia, still to this day. The man and whose army toppled him, the Turkish-aligned North Syrian forces, led by Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, that was his military call sign. He's now the president. That's Ahmed Al-Sharaa. That's who I'm talking about. He has thus far proven himself to be a very capable political operator, analytically speaking, not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. He's kept on good terms, you see, with the Russians and the Iranians, presenting himself as the leader of a unified and stable, therefore eventually more powerful Syria that can oppose Western domination of the region, that can oppose Israel. He can market himself and the Syria he's trying to build to Iran, for example, as I'm potentially on your side. I'm potentially turning what was once a pit stop for you. Bashar al-Assad's fragmented Syria was an Iranian pit stop on the way to South Lebanon. I'm giving you something potentially better. It's just an investment. You've lost control. Now you have no Assad. Now you have no pit stop. But you might eventually have a capable ally. It's not bad as a sales pitch. But on the other side, he's also kept good relations with the West. He's dressed up in a nice sharp suit. Oh my god, my! These days he's not wearing a traditional Syrian attire with a turban. That might not fly very well with the Western powers he's trying to schmooze with and cozy up to. He makes a big deal, for example, about holding Syrian elections very soon. I pinky promise, opening up his country to the West and protecting values that the West sort of enshrines, making a big point. Look at these Syrian women. They're like all up in the productivity space. They're not just raising kids, even though that's extremely, extremely important and a fundamental, foundational facet of society. But you guys care about the work? Okay, here's some Syrian women who are working, bro. Even my wife, she just graduated. Let me show you the pictures. That's the sort of presentation to the West. So he's a smooth operator. He's trying to, schmooze both sides. It's hard for the West to be as worried as they otherwise would be if Ahmed Al-Sharaa wasn't presenting himself as such a progressive, such a liberal individual. Are we sure he's a Muslim? On top of all that, Syria has received notable support from two key regional powers in the Middle East, what many would call, this is my slash, Middle East / West Asia. Number one regional power that is basically on Syria's side is Turkey, who basically made clear that Syria was with them. Chill, he's with me, okay? You guys, keep a hey. What the hell is keep a hey, Mapus? You guys, move aside. This guy's with me, right? Mess with him, you mess with me. Militarily speaking, Turkey is Syria's main supporter. Economically, Saudi has done some heavy lifting. The kingdom, Al-Mamlakat, they contributed to the lifting of sanctions on Syria. They paid off, for example, $15 million along with Qatar. I don't know how they divvied up that money, but they paid off just straight up $15 million so that Syria doesn't have any outstanding debt, outstanding arrears, so that they can go and ask for more money. They can borrow more money to rebuild their country's infrastructure. Now, Ahmed Al-Sharaa's White House meeting did confirm Western sanctions being lifted, sanctions that were first announced as being lifted, once again, in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, where Trump was talking about how he loves Mohammed so much, Mohammed being Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and he was sitting there all, it's because of me, I'm amazed. So Saudi did do a bit here, and that the lifting of sanctions should give Syria some breathing room. But that's not really new news, is it? That's from Riyadh, the meeting months ago. So here's my assessment for the hidden topic that could have been discussed in Washington between Ahmed Al-Sharaa and Trump. Here's the analysis, the speculation based on the information I have from publicly available sources. Okay, don't ask me for insider information. I don't have any. You see, the only regional power in the Middle East that doesn't want to see Syria prosper at all is Israel. Israel was very happy with a fragmented Syria that existed for the last 15 years. No worries on its northern border, of course, except for Lebanon, but not a bigger worry, right? But now a 25 million population strong Arab Republic, potentially, the Kurds potentially unifying with them at some point, not isolated from the West. The Americans are schmoozing up to this new Syrian government. Potentially, the Syrian government might allow American troops into Syria by the permission of the state. You've got Russia there, you've got Iran looking the other way, it's not particularly fast. Saudi, Turkey, you've got Turkey militarily supporting these guys, right? The economic support of the wealthy Gulf monarchies, the military support of Turkey, that all of what I just said there for Israel is a big fat headache to worry about. Geopolitically, you see, you don't see it framed like this. That's literally what I do, obviously, on my channel, but you don't see it framed like that anyway. But that's the reality. That's the risk. That's the worry that the Israeli state has as it concerns the new Syrian state. Especially given Ahmed Al-Sharaa's past, a military man with experience in the field, to put it euphemistically. As Trump said, he's got a strong history, a strong past. That's quite an interesting way to put his past, not gonna lie. Right, so Trump saying that, euphemistically, of course. But even the West seems to be, framing him as this strong individual, but he's not completely signed off on democracy. So, the West is in a bit of a middle ground. He is undoubtedly, though, what many would call an Islamist. An Islamist meaning, I would say, just to simplify things, because we're not all news reporters here. Not even me, right? I would say he's a fairly religious person, right? He's a fairly religious person is how I would describe him relative to, many heads of state in the region. So being a particularly religious person, for those who don't know, Islam has a very strong political component. It's open to interpretation, of course. Different people, different cultures have different interpretations of it. Different times in history, it's manifested, Islam's political component has manifested in different ways. Sometimes, in some cases, it's led to empire-spanning golden ages for everyone under the banner of the state that's ruling by an interpretation of Islam. There's a lot going on there, but generally speaking, someone who's a religious Muslim finds themselves in an administration, especially as the head of an administration, you're going to see Islam come in. It's a very strong, it's a very dominating aspect of life, this religion of ours. So that hasn't deterred the West, not yet at least. But, this is Israel's worst case scenario, right? Worst case Syria scenario is a Islamically influenced Syria. 25 million, well, the majority of those are Sunni Muslims. Another slice of the remainder are Shia Muslims, still Muslims. And then the remainder are, the others, the Druze, the Christians, etc., etc. So this is not good for Israel. This is the worst case Syria scenario, as I said. Worst case Syria scenario. Kind of sounds a bit like a Fred and George Harry Potter tongue twister. Worst case Syria scenario, worst case Syria scenario. Okay, it's not as hard as I thought it would be. Anyway, my assessment here is, love him or hate him, Ahmed Al-Sharaa may have spoken to America's president privately, making it clear that Syria is at a crossroads. We could go with Western support, but if you're not here for it, could go east. The multipolar world order is well underway. I could ask for support from another very capable bloc. We would love to work with you, don't get me wrong, the West, we would love to work with you. And there's money to be made here in our market, money to be made from developing our resource extraction capabilities. There's money to be made here, essentially, for America and the Gulf allies. But we have just one problem, America. We just have a teensy-weensy problem. Size-wise, it's actually really quite small. But they punch above their weight in terms of problem making. We have the Israeli state right next door. your friends and allies. Sorry about that. If there was a pause there, I paused because I saw the timer. After 10 minutes, I have to reset the. Anyway, we have a slight problem. It's called Israel. And Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Egypt, your other friends and allies, they just all want to get rich and prosper, America. Just like you. We all want to get rich and prosper. Like, this is how Syria can sell it, right? They can sell it geopolitically. We just all want to get rich. We want you to get rich with us. You're already rich, of course, America, but we want you to get more rich. You can never have enough dollar bills, right? But Israel, they just want to stir up trouble. I just don't know why, right? We know that you guys, America, are the boss though, right? So you could keep them in check, right? You're so strong. You're so capable. How did the peace prize not go to you guys? Honestly, I'm so sad about that, right? You see, if enough praise is heaped on Trump, enough focus on how he's a peacemaker, how he's an intelligent, wise administrator, alongside that, a genuine geopolitical benefit to America, America first, America, that you can attain a lot of wealth and prosperity for America and for your allies, which you can leverage in different ways for further benefit to America by contributing to peace in the Middle East. You, America, can give us peace in the Middle East for your benefit, right? That might just have convinced the Titan of North America, if behind closed doors that was the geopolitical maneuverings that were taking place. Of course, this is just how I'm thinking about things. I might be completely off the mark. But if that is the case, if Ahmed Al-Sharaa did make a similar case to what I just said and say to America, let's all win except Israel, not because we hate Israel, he has to frame it carefully, not because we hate Israel, but because war by Israel harms me, harms you, America, harms your allies, the Gulf monarchies. We all suffer. So let's just keep the peace. And you're the boss man. Keep the guy in check. Keep a leash on it. Keep a leash on it. We know you're stronger. Keep a leash on it, right? You're the master, right? You're the boss man. So if he frames it like that, there's potentially a lot that America can do in that case for Syria. By trying to keep Israel in check. Now what I just described there, might cause a vein to pop in Netanyahu's forehead and anyone else who supports Israel who's definitely watching this, certain agents of certain intelligence organizations. I don't, I'm just giving you guys the facts. I don't know why people would come after me. I'm just the messenger. No one's ever shot the messenger, right? Now, if America does indeed take that stance, it will be much harder for Israel to attack Syria without repercussions from several sides. Militarily, Turkey, economically, the Gulf monarchies, and America will be there continuously being like, Israel, stop doing this, stop doing that, Israel will be like, get off my case, you're not the boss of me, right? Like a spoiled brat who, just shoves off their parents', demands whenever, because they're spoiled, they're brat, they're a little emperor, as China's one-child policy developed, but we're not talking about China, obviously. But the situation's different now. It's significantly shifted. In America, they'll be like, listen, before you had complete control, not complete control, but you had significant control, the Israeli state and pro-Israel lobbies. You had strong control over my government officials, my congressmen, my president, my senators. But, hey, read the room. Right? The situation is very different. The American people, they're being told there's America first and there's Israel first, and they're picking America first, obviously. So, I can actually put my foot down and it won't politically harm me. So Israel will be like, oh, snap, the situation is different, right? I can't just get my way. I can't just be a spoiled brat. These parents have learned that you can just slap your kid. Like, that's new set of rules now, right? Well, there you go. You're in Asia. You're in Africa now. You're in you're in Bangladesh, bruv. There's no... Go to your room. There's no, I'm going to take your PlayStation away, give it back to you at the end of the night. No. There's a tap or the dot. Anyway. This, I think, what I just described, was the covert discussions that were being had. And at the end of the meeting, something was made clear that I feel may hint at Israel having indeed been the secret topic and me being kind of on the right track. You see, at the end of the meeting, publicly, Syria came out and said, normalization with Israel is to be put on ice for now. No normalization talks for now. Syria is not going to normalize with Israel. And America didn't complain. I thought this was about sanctions, guys. I thought this was about Syria's economy. Who mentioned Israel? Where did that come from? Unless we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg and everything else under the water. Because an iceberg, if you don't know, about 90% of it is underwater and you just see the top 10%. That's just how it floats. You know, the 90% is what I just described. So something along those lines. Anyway, we'll see. Time will tell as things turn as things turn out. Time will tell how things turn out. Stick with me, you're nearly at the end here. And I'll be here to report to you the news and the analysis, unbiased and without the Western spin. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all your efforts. Thank you for those who have stayed to the end of this video. If you found it interesting, amazing. If you didn't find it interesting, you still stayed to the end. Legends, you're trying to help me maybe get, increase my reach and, get to more audiences, new viewers. Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys are amazing. God, I'm so excited for where this channel is going to go. So excited, inshallah. Oh, sorry, the outro. For the unbiased news and analysis without the Western spin, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mahfouz, or NewsBaba, and I'll see you on the next one.